All right, so I have the flu, the man flu. So at this moment, I'm not feeling that great, but I want to make this video regardless because I've got a feeling that this is not the way I want to work the nuclear issue. Um, as you all know, I'm pretty left wing. I'm in favor of basic universal income. I'm in favor of free healthcare, free education. Um, I also don't give a rat's ass about people's identities. Everybody can be whoever he or she wants to be. Uh, doesn't really matter to me. If you're nice to me, I will be nice to you, and we can be friends, and we can work for it. We can put one foot in front of the other in order to build a better world. And I don't know what kind of a world that we are living in, but I'm just going to show you this exchange of tweets between a couple of people: David Roberts, Alex Trambath, Jesse Jenkins, Ben Hurd, Susie Hobbs Baker, yeah, Cheryl Rofer, Tom Beagler. And it starts off with something that Mr. David Roberts said. I'm sorry for knocking the microphone. Nuclear has become a way for people who hate the left and whose identities are bound up in feeling superior to the left to acknowledge climate change and the need for policy without admitting the left is correct about anything. So basically, he says that there's right wing people who acknowledge climate change and the need for policy. Yeah, they acknowledge climate change and the need for policy without admitting that the left is correct about anything. And to some degree, this is probably true. If we look at the political divide between left and right, it seems like we've become more polarized than ever before. And even though I subscribe to most left wing ideas, and I would consider myself a left wing person, although not on the edge of the left wing, but I'm inside the bell curve. And yeah, so let's see a bell curve. I just want, yeah. So if we look at statistics, if we look at statistics, normally we get a bell curve. So suppose that this is the left and this is the right. The wing starts at the middle, so right wing, left wing. But we could also say, well, the wing starts somewhere at standard deviation -2 and +2. That's where the wings begin, and this is the body. I consider myself to be in the body. I consider myself to be somebody in the middle. So if we look at this political spectrum, right? Uh, I mean, this is not even. This is. I don't know. I don't even know if this is actually. If these are accurate or not. Um, so here's the thing. I value the individual very very highly. I think that everybody should be able to be whoever and whatever he or she wants to be. Um, I do believe that we need a lot of cooperation. So I could be. Some people could say that I need to be in the, I don't know, Uh, so here's the thing, and here's I'm neither try. If you look at all these things going back, I mean, this begins as a left versus the right discussion, and yeah, just look at this. What percentage of the people glibly dismissing climate activists as unserious on this website understand A, the history and role of nuclear, B, the distinction between existing and new nukes, C, the actual range of opinions on nuclear among climate types, and then D, the cost issues facing the dominant plant designs, E, the actual state of innovation, F, the policies, G, the timeline for about 95% of what I see on this site is if liberals were serious about climate, they would support nuclear as a form of engagement in the issue of climate change. That is misinformed, glib, shallow, and far more about tribal enmities than the climate itself. So I'll just keep scolding. And here's the thing. I agree to. I don't know if it's 95%. I do know the if liberals were serious about climate, they would support nuclear. That's something, that's a meme that's pretty pervasive. And I disagree because I am a liberal. For all intents and purposes, if we look at the political spectrum, let's see if I can find a liberalism somewhere. Well, okay, yeah, liberal. I would consider myself a liberal slash socialist. I mean, yeah, well, this is the American spectrum. I'm Dutch, so basically, yeah, I don't know, but I get what he's getting at. I mean, I am oftentimes I am very disappointed with how my side responds to nuclear in general. If I look at the response in my own country, I was a member of a centrist party with leftist ideas to some degree, and they have decided to scold nuclear and to say no, we are not going to support nuclear. We think that renewables can do it all. And if I look at how, I mean, if I look at who is, echoing this idea, it's people who are more to the left and less to the right. So does that mean that liberals or left wing people generally hate nuclear? I don't know. I am disappointed with a lot of them. I think that the if liberals are more serious about climate change, they would support nuclear is indeed a shallow remark, because you have to understand that most people don't know. They are unaware of what is going on in the nuclear world. As he says before, the A to G stuff is all correct. Most people don't know about that. So I think that it's an opportunity for me, and for us. I mean, I take it that most of the people who subscribe to my channel understand my political views on the planet, my political views on society, and how we could make things better. But I'm not an absolutist. I think my opinions are fluid. I mean, I am willing to change my perception as soon as I get new evidence. And there was just one other thing that I would like to address, because some of the responses are pretty good. Some Beispiel Alex Trambeth, who says, A to G are very important, but also if lips were is a correct and important statement. Using it in bad faith is bad, but dismissing it is also bad, and that's correct. I think that David Roberts shouldn't dismiss these ideas because there's a kernel of truth down there. But how do we address it? That's another matter. Then Jassy said, Dave, you've made the if we are serious about climate change, we need to be serious about nuclear argument in yourself in good faith and to real effect with relation to maintaining the existing fleet, for example. Yes, lots of bad faith crap out there, but the core of the argument is legit. So very good responses there. And then Ben Hurd, a good friend of mine who I have traveled with in Germany one day, said, agreed, thanks, Alex and Jesse, not grasping why Dave chose to weaponize it in this way. Been advocating for nuclear from the left for 10 years, met plenty on my side, left or pro-nuclear or both, take your pick, who are unhelpful. Unhelpful is not new. This was unhelpful. And I agree. Maybe I am unhelpful from time to time. I mean, I'm somebody who, sometimes I want to just pick apart an argument and I go at it from, I employ logic and, if you do it in a logical way, that's sometimes you just tend to step on someone's toes. Then David Roberts says, well, I'm not going to pursue this here. I'll just say until you all acknowledge the absolutely toxic behavior of a very large proportion of online nuclear enthusiasts, you'll keep hitting resistance and being confused about it. And this is the thing. You have to be the change you want to be. What David is doing here is picking a broad brush and basically saying, well, I am going to give all of you pro-nuclear advocates a red card because there's a large contingent, I perceive a large contingent of people who are pro-nuclear and anti-left, and therefore you're all bad. That's basically what he's saying here in a simplified version. Now, if you apply logic to this, somebody will say, well, Tees, you're wrong. That's not what David is saying here, but that's how I read it there. And the next thing that is being said here just rubs me the wrong way. And it's said by Cheryl Rofer, and she said, I gave up advocating for nuclear with conditions because of the toxic nuclear masculinity crowd. Now, first of all, toxic masculinity, I understand how some of the things some men and some women do can be portrayed as being toxic masculinity. Now, I don't consider myself a toxic man, or I don't consider myself to be to show many traits of toxic masculinities. Perhaps I do. Perhaps sometimes when I respond to some stuff, I do bare my teeth, which might be construed or misconstrued as toxic masculinity. But here's the thing: if you want to advocate for nuclear because you know in your mind through scientific reasoning, by deploying logic, by doing all the calculations, that you have to be pro nuclear, regardless of whatever political affiliation you have, whatever gender you are, wherever you come from, what your faith is, whatever, it doesn't matter. If you have a scientific understanding of the problem and you've been read in well enough to understand that nuclear has to be a part of the solution, then by golly, you have to be a pro-nuclear advocate. Not being a nuclear advocate because there's people within who paint themselves as being pro-nuclear advocates and not wanting to be associated with them is incorrect. That's not the correct way. That's not the correct move. Because remember, you are an individual. And if somebody says, well, you are pro nuclear, and therefore, by extension, we associate you with the toxic masculinity crowd, there's an easy retort to that. You can say, well, that's not me. They are them. This is me. I'm an individual. I'm responsible for my own actions. And I want to be a pro-nuclear advocate because I care for the environment. I care for the future of our children. And I care for, creating a equitable future for all. Which in the end it will be. And of course, there are issues with nuclear that need to be addressed. That might be, you could put them into a social justice construct, for instance. Think about mining, for instance. That we have to impede on someone's territory. For instance, people who have lived somewhere for centuries and have a very strong ties to that particular piece of land, and we come in and bulldoze it and get all the uranium out and leave some tailings behind, and people get all anxious about it, and I can understand why. I mean, they have not been read in as well as we have, so there are things there that we must address at some point. But nuclear in general, when looking at it, pure black boxes. So if you take, I always see climate change as a black box. There's a whole lot of stuff going into the black box, but I want to know, how is it going to affect humanity in the end? And then I take the other black boxes, which is humanity, and the humanity operates in a certain way. I mean, it's incredibly complex. We have 1,000 different political ideologies. We have 1,000 different groups and millions of people trying to do better the world in their own ways. So I just consider it a big black box. What goes on inside is stuff for people who are better versed in politics and better versed in, sociologists and those kinds of people. That's not up to me. I'm not going to tell you how you should think about the future of mankind. But what I can tell you is humanity requires an X amount of energy to function. And then I go and black box that again, and I say, okay, well, we need to put in a primary energy. Then there's the black box outcomes, end use energy, and that's what humanity eventually uses to flourish. And from that black box mentality, I come to the conclusion that nuclear is best. So that I feel that this is something other people must do. Um, yeah. So I this whole exchange, and there's all kinds of sub threads. So Jesse Jenkins is very thoughtful. He says, "I'm sorry to hear that, and I also do not blame you. Maybe connect with Susie Hobbs Baker and talk about alternative communities of pro-nuclear voices. Cheers." And then she says, "Well, I know her very well. I'd like to see what I'd like to see." In the more general discussion is just one of those toxic masculinities. Say, yes, I'd like to hear more about your concerns. And so if we look at that, perhaps I'm a toxic masculinity guy. I mean, sometimes I just say, well, some of these concerns are unwarranted, and I can say from a scientific perspective, this and this is not true. Maybe I'm not the correct person to communicate those things. I don't know, but that doesn't mean that I shouldn't be communicating. Maybe I should communicate in this way. Maybe I should say, well, I understand your concerns, but I don't care about them. Or, yes, I understand your concerns, but here are the facts. Deal with it. I mean, that's probably considered toxic masculinity. So this is one of those videos about left, right, social justice stuff. I just want you to know that I disregard most of it. I am I am working for a better world for all. I don't care if people think that I'm doing it wrong because this is my way of doing it. And if those people think that I'm doing it wrong, they have their own voice and they can use it to enact their own change. So each of us is trying to do good in our own way. And I do think, and I do care for everybody, and I don't think and I don't think that anyone is better than another person. I don't think that women are better or worse than men. I don't think that there's anything about skin color that has to do with anything. I don't think that religion has to be any factor in anything. Sex, what you do in your spare time, I don't care. I don't care. I just want everybody to have a good future and, you know, help them get the opportunity to shape that future the way they want. And in my vision, having enough energy for everybody is one of the prerequisites. I'm talking about a prerequisite for that. And if I can help achieve that, that's worth it. And whatever else is going on out there about social justice, black versus white, men versus women, I don't want to have any part in it. If you are nice to me, I will be nice to you. If you want to be my friend, I want to be your friend, and we can work together. Thank you all for watching. Have a nice day, and I'm going to take myself some pills because my head is about to explode. Bye-bye.